It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. It's Friday. Gary, how are you?
Well, I'm doing good. In the breaking news, Papa Gaga is endorsing Trump. Don't know about Mama Gaga, but Papa Gaga endorsing Trump. Not to be mistaken with Grandma Gaga, who is Madonna, who wants to blow up the White House.
Yeah. Not so much an endorsement there. All right. And, you know.
What a day it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, every day I wake up, and by the time I come in, when I wake up, not the first shift, but the second shift.
Right.
When I woke up like at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And all you do is start scanning X and just looking, and it's just like, I shake my head going, oh my God. What was it? Was it the, let me just make sure I get the right union, and what was it? The Steamfitters Union announcing 70% of its membership supports Donald Trump, and and then O'Brien talking, and because AOC criticized the unions backing Trump. I mean, we're in completely political bizarro world right now. Another thing you and I were talking yesterday and saying the support for Harris is not based on any issues. And I saw Scott Jennings say it today. He said it's got to be more than just you're not Trump. But we said this on January 7th, back a few years ago. We said, expect that one of the only things that Democrats will be bringing up, even 3.5 years from now when the campaign's full bore, is January 6th.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. I mean, that's really, when you see any Republican come out, endorse, or anyone else come out and endorse Harris, it's not based on anything.
No, it isn't.
It's not based on any issue at all. None. Zero. Nada.
No, it's not.
Gaga.
And but it is an indication as to, again, the harsh reality that they face, that the Democrats caused, and now that they're facing.
I saw this when I woke up, and I think this is from yesterday, and I don't know if it was a general or whatever, because in this audio cut I can't find the name anywhere. But I just want to play this. This was a story that came out. The military advisors and leaders who support Harris. All right. Mm-hmm. Now listen to this dude. And it's like, you were in the military? You rose to a higher rank? Are you kidding me? I really worry about my military if this is how you explain to the American public why you support Kamala Harris. Here we go.
But Kamala Harris would be just the opposite. Why? Because she's an inspiration. Not only is she positive and does she bring hope and optimism, but as a black woman, the product of a mixed marriage, she will inspire millions of people throughout the world. Our credibility as a nation, that we would be able to allow, our country is so great that we're allowed a woman like that to become the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States. That is going to send a powerful message all over the world. People like Vladimir Putin are going to say, hey, wait a minute. These guys, they truly have a democratic country. They truly are representative. They truly are fighting for all their people. And Kamala Harris is a manifestation of that.
I mean, that's worse. What? That's worse than anything that Harris has said so far.
I was going to say, is this, seriously, he's going down this weird racist rant. It says something that we would allow it.
That our enemies are going to go.
And to the point that Putin,
right.
The same Vladimir Putin you're thinking of would go, oh, wow, that's true democracy. Look are you high? How much weed have you smoked? This is like watching one of those comedies where they only, and I don't mean Cheech and Chong, one of the later comedies modern comedies where they do nothing but smoke weed. My gosh. Seth Rogen called and said, sober up, dude.
Okay. It's retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Stephen Anderson. We're doomed. We're not only doomed, we're damn doomed.
Oh, we're doomed and we're on fire.
You've got a retired U.S. Army Brigadier General that says Vladimir Putin will stand up and all of a sudden respect the United States because the United States put Kamala Harris in because she's in a mixed marriage and is black and a woman.
And that she's a product of a mixed marriage. Her parents were mixed.
Yeah.
Wow. Seriously.
What did I say?
Yeah. She's in a mixed marriage, but also
okay.
he was making the point.
Yeah,
that
she was a product of a mixed marriage. Right. Okay, thanks for clarifying.
And that we would allow, he kept saying, we would allow it.
That shows we have a true democracy, and that's going to scare America's enemies. This guy was a U.S. Army Brigadier General?
Wow.
Are you kidding me? I mean, when I swear to you, because I just saw it here in the last half hour. And it was an audio cut from the other day. I had to look at what day it was. All right, the story came out yesterday morning on Fox. Fox had it. Retired general tells MSNBC Putin will marvel at U.S. electing a black woman and product of a mixed marriage. That this is going to. I can see Al-Qaeda going. Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, ISIS. Oh, yeah. My God, it's Kamala Harris. They get white flag, get the white flag. The United States has elected a president who is a product of a mixed marriage. Our days of terrorism are over.
Well, and some of our enemies, they let a female out of the house with makeup on. And didn't make her cover her face? Did she get to drive herself there? My gosh, what kind of independence? Maybe we were. This is what he wants you to believe. Maybe our enemies are all looking at us going, that Kamala Harris would spur the thought in our enemies' minds, maybe we've been wrong this entire time.
I thought it was. I said, this can't be true. This has to be. And after I will tell you this, after I saw this, I said, wow, maybe Gavin Newsom's law in California has some legitimacy because obviously this has to be a deep fake. This has to be a deep fake AI.
Deep fake. By the way, this is going to be the problem when deep fakes get really good.
Because I can't tell the difference.
Exactly.
Actually, I can, but I'm just trying to make a point.
We can now for sure.
I mean, but this was just so bizarre.
It's just weird.
That's your pitch for Kamala Harris to be president?
And the way that he was phrasing it, that we would allow, I'm like, stop talking. You're proving that you think about nothing but skin color. That's the only thing that matters to you. Did you mention any qualifications along the way? I mean, I know there aren't any, but would you even try doing that? And then he caps it off by saying all of that would impress Vladimir Putin. Yeah. This makes my bald spot hurt. This kind of stupidity and ignorance.
I'm going to send an email to our management to see if it's okay if you and I can always be high, so maybe we can better understand what's coming out of D.C.
I don't think I want to.
From the
I don't think
Democrats.
I want to get to a point of reckoning on this stuff. I think I want to stay as far away from it.
No, wait a minute. Let me backtrack. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah?
Yeah, because if we're high and hear this stuff, we'll become completely paranoid.
Well, there's that.
What the hell? Oh, no, we're doomed.
Yeah. And I I don't know how you get to that point. This is somebody who's clearly, a surrogate getting out. That's his cell.
That's his cell.
That's his cell on Kamala Harris.
I mean, it's
just weeks before the election.
It's embarrassing.
It's
really embarrassing.
It's worse than cringe because you're doing that. It's like you're at a gathering and you're sitting around, and then somebody just starts saying something, and then the whole room goes, "Oh my gosh, did they just say that out loud?" And he did. Because you could have stopped at the whole thing with, the fact that we would allow, where the hell's your racist mind at, man? You could have stopped it at that, but nope. For the closer, he's going to bring in the idea that it would impress Vladimir Putin.
So that would be called identity politics delusion?
Yeah.
Just
communist identity politics delusion. Do we have a new category? Pin that one up on the board and see if it sticks. That is just weird.
I know.
That's just bizarre. It's like, seriously, it's like you get to a gathering and then there's one person in the room, they look good, they look healthy, they look like they've stopped smoking weed, and then they start talking. Nope, didn't stop smoking weed. In fact, they look like they're smoking the most weed they possibly can all the time. Because you're high. Something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't.
And the thing is, you're a retired U.S. general. And this is how
you're leading. You're at one time leading our military.
And this is how you observe and analyze our enemy leaders. This is how you do it.
Wow.
I mean, what the hell kind of decisions did he make
on the battlefield if he was ever on the battlefield?
Right.
Hey, listen. Crawl out of this bunker here. I want you to go up. I want you to go up to Putin. I want you to tell him you're from a mixed marriage. That'll change his mind. They'll get rid of all of his nukes.
All right, the ISIS and Hamas fighters are over there. How many? Raise your hand if you're a product of a mixed marriage. All right, put down your guns. We'll get the megaphone out. We'll scream that you're in a mixed marriage and we wish to negotiate, and you walk up there unarmed.
Hey, listen. Go over to that payphone over there and send a page to Hezbollah and tell all of them you're from a mixed marriage. What the actual hell? I mean, of all the enemies, who is clearly and without a doubt on a nuclear threat level our biggest threat? It's Russia. It has been for a long time. Still a healthy arsenal if he ever wanted to use it. And that was the assessment of Vladimir Putin, who leads Russia, by a retired general. Wow.
I know. If I'm sitting here in silence because I don't have any words.
My words to him would be, instead of drop and give me 20, drop and give me all of your weed. I don't need you to do one push-up. Just give up the weed.
We've got a great show ahead today. There's so many crazy things. But
this is how it started.
Yeah, this
is how the show started.
Next, we'll talk about Israel, Hezbollah, and exploding goats.
Yeah, exactly. Exploding everything.
I mean, no, there were a ton of stories yesterday. I mean, that former Border Patrol agent, or not Border Patrol agent, head of the Border Patrol, who said, no, the Biden-Harris administration, there were terrorist crossing, and they would not let us,
right?
Warn the American public that these people are coming into the country.
Right.
Absolutely did not want the American public to know what the reality was at the border.
Yep.
We told you.
Told you.
So that and a whole bunch more. There's so many topics today, and we got to get through it because it's the last day of the week.
Yeah, we got to. Yeah, what we have to do is because it just keeps going, but we have this longer break over the weekend.
Yeah,
and that makes it frustrating. So we got to get as much in today as we can.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Did you know that up to half of all major engine failures are due to poor cooling system maintenance? That's a lot of downtime and can cost drivers big. You expect a lot from your engine, which is why the cooling system must be a part of your maintenance routine. Here's a tip to keep your cooling system in shape and your engine running smooth. Inspect your radiator, belts, and hoses for potential failures and deterioration, especially ahead of winter. Check the condition of your coolant to ensure it's at the optimum freeze point. Inadequate freeze protection levels can result in cracking of lines or passages. If you find insufficient freeze point levels or any wear and tear, have these issues repaired by technicians you can trust.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. When we talk about identity politics.
Yeah.
We just identity politics there with that former retired general. This story is actually a couple days old, but I thought it was interesting to bring up. Skip Bayless, sports commentator, has revealed he felt guilty liking WNBA star Caitlin Clark. The host confessed his deep-seated guilt for watching basketball star Clark. Clark has top rankings of any rookie in the WNBA and was the number one draft pick. Quote, I started watching the WNBA much more closely than I ever have, and I started to think deep down in my psyche, wait a second, she's really good, whispering the last three words. But I'll be the first to admit I felt guilty saying so on TV, on social media. I did not want to look like this red state white guy cheering for this red state white girl. When we say that liberals are racist, that's where the racism comes in. If you wonder why they promote all these things, it's because they judge people by color.
Right.
They're the racists. It's the last thing I would think of. Caitlin Clark is a human being who shoots baskets.
If she were horrible at the game, she wouldn't be where she is.
Right.
But if she were not a top player and you were obsessed with watching her, then maybe somebody could make that point. But when there's an exceptional player on the court,
liberal white guilt exists.
And they can't get around it.
Why? Because they judge people by groups and not as individuals. Otherwise, it never enters your mind.
Right.
You're just like, what a great basketball player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Saw Michael Jordan, said, what a great basketball player.
Right.
Oh no, Michael Jordan, he's black.
Right. Well, but they will find a way, however it is, to make it look racist. And then, just apply the guilt. How about an exceptional athlete? And leave it at that.
Links to everything Red Eye on the website, redeyeradioshow.com.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just to let you know, in case you didn't pick up on the sarcasm, the exploding goat story wasn't true. It was going viral. Somebody put an AI thing on there with Jake Tapper talking about Hezbollah and exploding goats, and that thousands of people were injured. It was just about all the craziness out there when you see it. Because when I first saw it, I went, okay. And I had to go to Google and check it. You know, you check everything now.
Right.
But the fact is, when I first read it, I went, well, it could be true.
Well, the week started with the exploding pagers.
I know.
So and everybody was like, how do you even make that happen?
It's like exploding pagers. It's like exploding goats. It's like, okay, is that... And that's why you've got to triple check everything these days. Now, it doesn't take long to triple check or even just check.
Right.
But it was,
exactly.
But it's like exploding goats. And because then my mind started working. Wow, how did they do that?
The Israelis made a giant airliner disappear from a tarmac. Oh, wait, that was David Copperfield. Never mind.
It's like I was trying to think, how did they do that? How did they get the explosives inside all these
no,
goats?
I mean,
goats?
It's like, well, I guess if they could do the pager thing, then, all right, I guess they could make that happen. I guess. Yeah.
I thought to myself, that's a lot of covert operatives to have out there.
Well, I mean, it is Israel. They've got that covert thing down. I mean, for sure.
I just want to clarify when he said it because we were laughing. It was like, oh, I didn't clarify that and tell everybody the story is not legit.
Right.
And it's very important to do that.
Yeah. To be
Otherwise,
all of our listeners are Googling, oh, my gosh, really?
Where's the goat story they talked about? No, it's not true.
I'm not sure if I have more respect for Israel or less. What did the goat do?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Oh.
Yeah.
Where's that? Since we're on the story of pagers, walkie-talkie radios, and goats.
Yeah.
Well, 2 out of the 3 are true.
Yes.
Hey, 2 out of the 3 are true. So we're at 66 2/3% truthfulness on the show today.
Mostly true.
Which mostly true. which totally.
We're in landslide territory of being true.
Yes. Which totally beats the accuracy of the mainstream media.
By 65%. A full 65 points.
Oh my gosh! I'll have to find that story. I didn't expect to go there. I just wanted to clarify it because that was just when I was talking about it.
We have to be careful what we say. You know, there might be people writing Aerosmith right now. This one listener's been writing Aerosmith. Oh, I know Eric Harley, and I had no idea.
I'm just trying to find the story that the UN and AOC upset that they blew up the pagers, and it's basically this: they're arming civilian products to kill the enemy. You and I were saying how are they going to come out against this? That's the narrative now.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like, well, then you don't blow up buildings because those are civilian. If terrorists are in buildings, you don't blow it up.
Right.
You should never blow up a car because that's a civilian product.
Right.
Which it's just completely, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's like, no, it's the communication devices of the enemy.
Right.
But that was a narrative coming out of the UN yesterday. And you and I were saying, how are they going to come out against it? So, of course, AOC did. I didn't see anybody else but AOC. Did you?
No.
Yeah.
No. Quite often, she's the loudest and Nobody pays attention to anybody else. But, no. Look, it's their communications infrastructure, and it was also to send a message, hey, we know you've changed tactics.
Yeah.
One source saying over the last couple of days that there was reason to believe that Hezbollah was on to Israel, that they knew Israel was aware of them changing tactics on communication, and that Israel wanted to act out and implement their plan before, while they could, I guess. So I'm not sure if that's accurate and true, but clearly you're looking to disrupt the communications. I mean, if you have them, because the thing about it is you have them all that then wondering what electronic devices they can trust. One of the things about the old school way of tracking the enemy down was that you could follow people. You could follow messengers. When you look at the how we track down the nearly 20 years hunting for Osama bin Laden, or hunting any enemy, but certainly in modern times, well, you're going to have to follow people, and following people, while it's tedious, following electronics or the changing electronics, and then all of the apps that they're using. The intel community is confounded by the encryption on apps, communications apps. And so if you can have them questioning how they communicate and what they're going to use, then you have them off guard. And they can't communicate. And then word that Israel then goes on the offensive against Hezbollah when they're in a state of basically non-communication or very little broken communication. And that's exactly what you want. Go after them while they can't talk to each other, or while they have certainly a diminished ability to talk to each other.
Well, and it makes it so that's all that's on your mind all day. Anything that you're around, any electronics that you're around, you're afraid.
You're paranoid.
At that point, any type of communication that you wish to do, no matter what, you're wondering, okay, is this going to, how are we going to communicate? So you destroy the communications plus the psychological operation.
Yeah,
there.
Right.
I mean, that's
of how they can infiltrate.
Yeah. I mean, here I am sitting over in the United States, and I took my smartphone and I went, I'm going to put it in my back pocket because there's, my back pocket, because if it goes off, there's a lot of, insulation there.
Yeah. Right. Well,
I'm not going to put.
Quite frankly, I pulled the 8-track player out of my truck. I'm not going to take a chance.
But it's something. I mean,
I'm not the enemy, but
it was funny because I actually did. It was like, wow, what would it be like? I took my. This is the other day when the first story came out. I took my smartphone. I'm like, okay, if I'm a terrorist, which pocket do I put it in?
Well, remember the devices that were going off as a result of the batteries? What was it? It was the vaping devices, weren't they? They were a couple of vaping devices caught fire or something. I mean, we've seen electronics, that get hot. I mean, it's one of the reasons that if you have certain types of batteries and you're getting on a plane, they want to know about it.
I haven't seen yet. Maybe it was out there yesterday, but it didn't get a lot of publicity. Has anybody figured out what it might have been? Now, we know the first thing was, well, they put some type of malware in there that heated up the battery and blew up the battery. And you and I looked at each other and went, that can't be right, because you wouldn't have the simultaneous blowing up, within a few minutes together, whatever.
No, the stories that I saw were
explosive.
It was an explosive device, which then, of course, these days can be remotely controlled. I mean,
I saw those are the two possibilities.
Right.
I haven't seen anybody say we've examined the cell. Somebody's examined, one of the pagers, and that's what it is.
Right. Yeah.
They brought up the different possibilities, and that's what you and I both believed it would be an explosive that you would set it off. That would be that simultaneous.
Yeah, because if you get to the supplier, you infiltrate the supplier, then you can take the entire supply and you can load it up. And then if those explosive devices inside those units are all remote controlled, if you can access them remotely, then you've got it.
Because if it was just they figured out the way to blow up the lithium-ion batteries, I'm never buying an EV.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, it tells you where we are as a society versus where Israel is as a nation. It's one example as to what they have to go through. We mentioned their intel. Well, their intel has to be right. Their intel can't be wrong, and their intel has to be active as well. One of the issues that we've had in modern years here in the U.S. is the intel community coming back with information and then all of it changing before it gets to policymakers and or the White House. Or the White House gets it, and then the intel community says, well, wait a minute, that's not what we said, that's not what we got. And, you know, there's been all of these, you know, back and forths about how it's communicated because politically it becomes something different. How you fight the enemy in the U.S. politically is different than the public sentiment with Israelis, rank-and-file citizens in Israel, and how their leadership fights their enemy. Because for them, it is about existence. I mean, pretty much the entire region, with few exceptions, wants them gone.
Yeah.
And that's not the case here. We have the luxury of having a great military, with the exception of a few brigadier generals who seem to be high. And we have a great economy, and we have many allies in the world. And Israel, it has fewer allies these days.
Is anybody, for example, any of the military leaders or former military leaders in Israel saying Netanyahu has to go in favor of someone who's from a product of a mixed marriage?
Yeah, right.
Because that's what will intimidate the enemy?
The enemy, yeah. Everybody will just, we didn't know that about him.
By the way, the best meme yesterday was the one with the face of Netanyahu, and it says, the press asking a question. Is Israel behind the exploding pagers? Netanyahu. So I was raised in a middle-class family.
My wife yesterday, hey, what happened to those cookies I just bought? And I started with, I was raised in a middle-class family.
We'll have some of her with Oprah. Wow.
Harris, not my wife. Yeah. My wife was not on with Oprah, to be clear.
Yeah. Yes. Well, more with Harris on Oprah.
Yeah.
Coming up here in a little bit. 866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. This Harris with Oprah yesterday. Here we go.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If
And I thought
somebody
that was
breaks in
powerful.
my house, they're getting shot.
Yes. I hear that.
Probably should not have said that.
But
My staff will deal with that later.
Wow. She can't even say that she will defend her home. It's like, okay, I'm going to say it to try to convince you of it, but then I'm going to tell you that I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
And my staff's
going to have to deal with it. Politically,
Right.
that's a bad thing.
Right.
I can't say that.
Right. You simply
You
simply say I'm a gun owner, and if somebody broke into my home, I would defend my home with my gun. End of story. You don't need to say, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
I'm a gun owner, and like all gun owners, we believe in being able to defend our property and our families.
Right. That's the problem. She even says something like that and can't figure out whether she's helping her campaign or hurting her campaign, so she's got to cover both sides.
Well, that's her problem. That's where she's stuck. Because the liberal left hates guns, and she's trying to, by lying, appeal to the center and the independent by pretending to be pro-gun. And we all know she's not.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. We'll cover all the campaign stuff, but want to get to everything else that has happened this week, because there's been a lot of different things that we want to make sure we get to. You had yesterday the House Homeland Security Committee have brought forth witnesses to talk about immigration at the border and what has gone on during the Biden-Harris administration. They brought in former San Diego Sector Chief Patrol Officer Aaron Heitke, and we just want to play his opening statement, because what he talked about in his opening statement was they were told, we've got a lot more terrorist suspects crossing the border.
Yeah.
Do not publicize it.
Right.
We don't talk about it.
Right.
Nobody is supposed to know. No one is supposed to know.
Right.
Members of Congress, whatever.
Right.
And here it is in his own words.
The only true consequence we have to slow down and discourage people from coming into the United States illegally is sending them back to their country of origin. Throughout the first 3+ years of this administration, I saw a steady decrease in the countries we could send people back to. For the first time in my 25 years, and under 5 different administrations, whether through neglect or on purpose, I saw a large-scale lapse in our ability to return people to their country of origin. The inability to send people home meant that most people being arrested for illegal entry would either have to be detained or released. The current administration, however, from day one, made a point of decreasing the amount of detention space available nationwide. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's funding for detention has steadily been cut and private detention eliminated. The fact that so many illegal aliens are being released into the United States spread worldwide very quickly. As this happened, the numbers the Border Patrol encountered illegally crossing the border increased exponentially. The impact to me and my agents were significant. Sectors were ordered to take in and process all the illegal aliens encountered on the border. The Border Patrol saw groups of hundreds and thousands coming into the United States and turning themselves in. These numbers pulled 80, 90, sometimes 100% of the agents on duty away from the border. Border Patrol zones across Texas, Arizona, and California had no agent presence for weeks and months at a time. Those who did not want to be caught could simply walk in. We have no idea who and what entered our country over this time. Throughout 2022 and 23, I sent agents to Texas and Arizona to count gotaways. Those sectors could not even put enough agents in the field to see what they'd missed. Simultaneously, in San Diego, we had an exponential increase in significant interest aliens. These are aliens with significant ties to terrorism. Prior to this administration, the San Diego sector averaged 10 to 15 SIA arrests per year. Once word was out the border was far easier to cross, San Diego went to over 100 SIAs in 2022, well over that in 2023, and even more than that registered this year. These are only the ones we caught. At the time, I was told I could not release any information on this increase in SIAs or mention any of the arrests. The administration was trying to convince the public there was no threat at the border. Fentanyl is another issue. The San Diego area sees between 80 and 90% of the methamphetamine and fentanyl seizures annually for our entire country. With little enforcement at the border, these drugs were coming through en masse. During my last year in San Diego, the price for a single pill of fentanyl, for example, went from $10 to 25 cents. To make matters worse, during 2022 and 23, I had to shut down San Diego traffic checkpoints, which are critical for drug interdiction, because the resources had been diverted to the process and release mission. The large numbers also had and still have a negative impact on the San Diego community. I had to release illegal aliens by the hundreds each day into communities who could not support them. To quiet the problem, 2 flights a week were provided from San Diego to Texas. These flights simply brought aliens that would have been released in San Diego over to Texas. Each flight cost approximately $150,000. This was the administration's way to try and quiet the border-wide crisis. Once these flights were stopped and the releases continued, California saw the true economic impact. I received calls from the governor's office, local mayors, and hospital administrators asking me if we could keep injured aliens in custody so the federal government would pay the medical bills. Through pressure from the administration, my headquarters became more interested in the fiction that being portrayed in the media and not at all concerned with reality. Each time we asked for help in dealing with a new issue, it fell on deaf ears. At times in San Diego, we had 2,000 or more aliens sitting in between the fences asking to turn themselves in. I was told to move them out of the sight of the media. Meanwhile, Border Patrol agents are continually forgotten and neglected by the media and this administration. These agents deal with death, women and children that have been raped, abused, trafficked, bought and sold, families that have spent months in terrible conditions, sickness, and despair. If you look at the dramatic rise in the number of suicides within the Border Patrol, it is directly correlated with the migrant surge. The agents have been pushed beyond their limit, and this has greatly impacted their physical and mental health. While current numbers of aliens crossing our border are lower in comparison in recent months, there's a reason for this. After nearly 4 years, this administration finally started to ask Mexico for help in slowing down the traffic through their country. This and other actions make a difference, but why has it taken so long? All of these tactics were being used before this administration took office, but this administration stopped or greatly limited them. I'm also concerned this will not be maintained. The problems we are facing at the border have solutions. These solutions can be quite simple and cost far less than the mess currently occupying so much time and money. The return to a policy of enforcing the law and returning illegal aliens to their home countries is required.
There you go.
We've known about the flights for quite some time publicly, and for those who might scoff at Mr. Heidke's statement here and his testimony as to what was going on. Oh, well, they would never do that. They would never want to keep it quiet, blah, 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 blah. Just imagine this. I mean, first of all, this is an agency that the federal government controls. Look at how they controlled social media. That they don't own Facebook. They didn't own Twitter back in the day. And they control, and they know through the media and social media, they can control a lot of the public narrative and those companies who help to shape the liberal narrative. So with an agency that they do control, I don't have any doubt as to what Mr. Heidke is saying. And it is extremely disturbing because basically what he lines out there is that, you know, we're seeing in the media, everybody remembers the International Bridge scenario a couple of summers ago in Del Rio. And what's the biggest thing that came out of that is the 2 agents, border agents, that had to pay the price for a lie because of this administration.
Yeah. And the administration.
The whole whipping incident.
And Biden and Harris kept that lie going.
And so the public, you know, because they had to quell the public, they had to, you know, do something about the images coming out of Del Rio during that series of events down there. And it was getting worse. The media was, remember, they wouldn't let the media close to what was going on?
Mm-hmm.
And then you come up with this idea of, okay, then how do we do this? This is getting worse. Put them on a plane.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. Just fly them directly in to the United States.
Yep.
And, there's been a number of stories I saw. I think there was Alabama. We know Springfield. And then there was another. It was a town in Pennsylvania, a small town of like 2,000-3,000.
Right.
Where I saw the other day they were interviewing the city manager and the mayor, who said they just dump thousands of migrants in their town and basically say, you pay for it.
Yep.
You take care of it. They're your problem now. What the Biden-Harris administration is doing is reprehensible. And what's even more reprehensible is Harris is lying about it, and Harris is trying to convince the public that she, especially when you see what she has said in her own words on immigration,
Right.
pro-sanctuary city, as she was. In fact, I do want to find. Yeah, here it is. This was put together by an anti-illegal immigration PAC. Tom Homan, you remember Tom Homan?
Yeah.
From that was acting director, I think, of Department of Homeland Security at one point.
Right.
And he's the one that just will get right in their face.
Yeah.
And just go, you don't know what the hell you're talking about here.
Right.
Here's the ad that this group put together with what Harris said, because as you know, the first ad that she put out, remember that? The ad that she's going to be tougher on the border? Absolute lie. And as we said, we've been saying this for 2 months, and we said, please, any Democrat out there, just email us or do whatever, put it on X or whatever. Tell us that you actually believe that she will be tougher on the border than Trump. And, of course, we've received nothing.
Right.
But here is this ad that was put together.
I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border.
Who really is Kamala Harris? She's been telling us her entire career.
I support our sanctuary law.
The illegal immigrant deported multiple times who stands accused of killing Kate Steinle.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
Also have the courage to reject that term, illegal alien.
Are you aware that there's a perception? Are you aware that there's a perception?
That puts ICE in the same category as the KKK. Is that what you're asking me?
Abolish ICE. Yeah. Is that a position that you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
Will you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one.
How come she hasn't applied consequences the last 3.5 years? 10 million illegal encounters, 2 million gotaways, 600% increase in sex trafficking, more terrorists coming across the border, a record number of people off the terrorist watch list, and over 250,000 Americans dead to fentanyl that comes across the border. Consequences, there ought to be consequences for her failure.
We have a secure border. The border is secure.
Sickening new details about the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The 22-year-old was beaten to death with a mystery object.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't.
Kamala Harris. Do you trust her to stop the invasion?
That's a great ad.
The end. Yeah, it is a great ad. And remember and we played this a couple of months ago, or in the last maybe month and a half, where when she was a senator, she was comparing ICE to the KKK.
Yeah.
This is somebody who's trying to convince the American public that she's tougher on the border than Trump. Why would she do that?
Right.
But as I've said, you and I have come to the conclusion out there, because one thing that we've noticed is that the Democrat voter is completely quiet. You don't hear. We don't get it. We used to get tons of Democrats that would communicate with us.
Yeah,
and
sure.
we don't get anything. Well, we got the Democrat that called a couple of weeks ago. They sort of agreed with us on stuff.
Yeah. Right.
I believe agree with us on a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
This is an election where the people that are voting for Harris just bury their heads in the sand. We hate Trump. We hate Trump. We don't care what she's going to do. We don't care what she's saying. but the independent doesn't, buy into it.
No, it's not believable at all.
Well, they haven't, from what we have seen, a significant portion of independents, and what the polls are looking at right now, if you take them in general, that not as many independents are buying the BS of the Democrats. They're not buying it from Kamala.
I think even those that know it but still hate Trump. This is what I told you in the pre-show meeting. I really believe we're getting down to very few, if any, undecideds. I think it's about why you're voting at this point. And I think there are plenty of people that know she's lying but still will never vote for Trump. And the question would be, is she strong enough to motivate them to vote against Trump? For some of them, yes. And it could be for enough of them, and that would be absolutely tragic. But that's, I think, where we are. I think everyone knows. I think everything is factored in, and nobody believes her positions that she's lying about now. It's the question of, are you okay with the lie? And is your disdain or hatred for Trump enough to motivate you to vote for her?
Well,
if you're voting for her.
As I told you when I was on vacation, real nice guy who I've known for a long time. I wouldn't call him a friend, just an acquaintance, and I saw him out. And I always thought he was a Trump supporter because very conservative. He disagrees with everything that Harris stands for, will not vote for Trump. And when I said why, he goes, I just hate that man. And that was it. It's like, wow.
That's where people are.
That's where they are. And you're not going to change that.
It's they talk about things that trigger people, And for people who don't live in this every single day, for those of us who want to be informed and want to be on top of what's going on, you see the images of both candidates every day. But for those who don't live in it, and even they may be informed as to what's going on, but they don't live in it like we do and our audience does every day, where they're looking for information and looking to be informed throughout the day, that image comes up of the candidate that they have disdain for, and it's like, oh, no. And they're not going to listen. That guy you talked to, he wasn't going to listen.
No.
You're not going to change his mind.
Nope.
And that's unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate. The question is reality big enough to motivate people in a big way to hand Trump a massive victory? Only time will tell.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
The IFTA tax program redistributes tax revenue to states based on your actual miles run. Thus, the truly cheapest fuel can only be found if you subtract federal and state taxes and state surcharges from the pump price to compare. The strategy means that you buy without regard for whether you are paying more at the pump in taxes. IFTA also considers state surcharges, which complicates the fuel buying strategy. Indiana, Kentucky, and Virginia have per gallon surcharges. Connecticut, Kentucky, New Mexico, New York, and Oregon have per mile surcharges. While some owner-operators buy only enough fuel to get through surcharge states, this practice can backfire, depending on the actual cost of the fuel in each state. When comparing fuel prices, always remember, pump pride minus taxes equals the real fuel cost. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, an NFL Hall of Fame coach goes after Kamala Harris, talking to she's She's trying to make the case, and I've seen this over the last couple of days, Democrats trying to make the case that God would be pro-abortion.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, you got to stop it. Stop it. It's a
yeah.
and he was like, what faith are you talking about?
Right.
Could you be specific of what faith you're talking about?
Right.
So we will get to that. Plus, more on Harris, on Oprah, Secret Service, and the DHS sued over the first Trump assassination attempt. Just a bunch of audio that we've got. We've got so much audio coming up. Ramaswamy in Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah.
That and more on the way.
Listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, let's listen to Kamala yesterday on Oprah.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
We love our country. I love our country. I know we all do. That's why everybody's here right now. We love our country. We take pride in the privilege of being American. And this is a moment where we can and must come together as Americans, understanding we have so much more in common than what separates us. Let's come together with the character that we are so proud of about who we are, which is we are an optimistic people. We are an optimistic people. Americans, by character, are people who have dreams and ambitions and aspirations. We believe in what is possible. We believe in what can be. And we believe in fighting for that. That's how we came into being. Because the people before us understood that one of the greatest expressions for the love of our country, one of the greatest expressions of patriotism, is to fight for the ideals of who we are, which includes freedom to make decisions about your own body, freedom to be safe from gun violence, freedom to have access to the ballot box, freedom to be who you are and just be, to love who you love openly and with pride, freedom to just be. And that's who we are. We believe in all that. And so this is a moment where we stand knowing what we are fighting for. We're not fighting against. It's what we're fighting for.
We also believe weed should be legal. Good night, folks. Drive safely. What the hell was that? Seriously. I lost 4 IQ points in that soundbite.
I love it because we take it for granted when somebody says, for example, we have much more in common, than what we disagree with. Actually, what we disagree with us makes us a lot less common with other individuals.
Yeah.
When you look at how far we are separate, for example, on freedom of speech, she wishes to limit freedom of speech. The Democrats wish to limit freedom of speech. There is no compromise in there.
Right. Yeah.
There is no compromise.
Right.
When you look at so many of the things that they wish to do, we disagree with. Where is the freedom for women to compete in sports against women?
Right.
That's the one thing that the Democrats are almost 100% united on, including Kamala Harris. How come that question never gets asked to her? If you claim you care about, women's, and by the way, she did the whole thing when she was going back and forth with, they didn't go back and forth, but Tony Dungy questioning her when she talked about, faith.
Yeah.
He goes, legendary NFL coach Tony Dungy challenged a tweet from the vice president about abortion rights. Harris has been unapologetic about her stance on abortion rights for women, and she continued with the post on X on Thursday. One does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government and certainly Donald Trump should not be telling a woman what to do with her body, she says. Dungy, the first black head coach to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the modern era and second all time, is a man of faith and question Harris. Dear VP Harris, I hear you make the statement all the time. Exactly what faith are you talking about when you say you don't have to abandon it to support abortion? Are you talking about the Christian faith that says all babies are made in the image of God? And then quotes where in the Bible that is. That God places them in the womb and that we should not take any life unjustly? Are you talking about that faith or some nebulous general faith that says we're good enough and smart enough to make our own decisions? What faith are you talking about? You know, as I've said, she used the argument that you can't use anymore. And I know, because I've been involved in it a ton of times since the Dodd's decision. Because it's a woman's body, they can do what they want. Then you're for abortion till birth. Well, no,
Right.
no. It has to be limited. Well, then it's not about a woman's body.
Right.
And that's the debate that I got in with a number of pro-choice women that found out what I did, and that was the first thing that they did. And this was the months after, and even 6 months ago, I met someone. And it was a couple. And that's the first thing she asked me. And when I was done explaining to her, her husband was sitting behind her just smiling. Because I said, well, then you're for abortion till birth. No. Well, then it's not about a woman's body. What? What are you talking about? Well, you don't need to get angry. You're saying that it's about a woman's body, yet you believe that sometime in the womb you should not be able to have an abortion, that it should be against the law. That means the government would interfere while the baby was in your womb.
Right.
I'm amazed. Every single pro-choice woman had never thought that. They were completely blown away by the entire concept that if it's about a woman's body, that if that's what you believe, then you would have to believe in abortion till birth.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's just, they were completely shocked, like, we can't believe the concept. And I think that's where you see the total lack of critical thinking on the left. Completely. They are devoid of critical thinking. And so many Democratic voters are. They just are. And that's why you have not just a Democratic voter, that's why you have Harris, who has flip-flopped on so many of the major issues that Trump has landslide numbers for, but she won't explain why, because she can't do it. And now that we look back on that debate, my God, it seems like it was a year ago that, you know, she won, and we had asked the question, on what issue did she beat Trump on?
Right.
And we've asked that consistently. On what issue does she beat Trump on? On one issue of where she truly believes.
And no one could make that point.
And as we have said when we've talked about, Kamaga, as, even Trump brought up during the debate, that he was going to give her a MAGA hat, everybody knows that. And so the major issues that are landslide numbers for Trump that the American public actually cares about, the most important issues, nobody believes she has those stands. Nobody. No Democrat believes that. Every Democrat understands. Any Democrat who's paying attention, because there are some Democrats that may not even know that she's flip-flopped on all these issues.
Right.
But any Democrat who has paid attention knows that she is not more pro closing the border as Trump is. We all know that.
Right.
She's not pro-fracking. We all know that. She's not for more police.
Nope.
She's not. She's not for that.
Nope.
She hasn't changed her mind. She's still pro-sanctuary cities. She's still pro what's going on at the border now. Just, okay, let's try to make so things at the border aren't chaos. We'll just fly people directly into the country, dump them into cities all across the country, and let them take care of the problem. I mean, it's absolutely reprehensible what they're doing.
And part of the sending them across America is about hiding them, and just the same way they wanted to hide the border situation by putting people on planes. The Haitian refugees, they don't want to highlight the issue there. In our society, when we look at it, whether it's refugees, whether it's illegal immigrants, it falls under the same umbrella category, and that is, all right, we have non-citizens that are here. What are the boundaries going to be? What are the rules going to be? Well, with this administration, there are no rules, and you don't get to see them. You heard Heike. They wanted to hide the truth from the American people. And she wants to hide the truth as to who she is from the American voter. As to what her positions are on pretty much all the major core issues on the table right now. She has to lie about them. Why? If you're a Democrat, why is she lying? Why is she lying to appear more like Trump?
Yeah.
You know that she is, and either you're okay with it or you're not. It's one or the other.
Well, here's one thing they didn't fact check during the debate when he said she's become MAGA. That it was going to give her a MAGA hat.
Yeah.
Nobody, not one Democrat stood up and said how horrible that he's trying to compare her to MAGA.
All right.
But that's what she's trying to convince the American public of.
Right.
Now, we all know she's not. We all know she's lying to the American public.
Yeah.
But nobody came out. There was no fact-checking from the mainstream media.
No.
They all disagree with what she's saying on the border, on fracking.
Mm-hmm.
They all disagree with her on it. Mm-hmm. But they understand that Democrats can't win on the issues.
And they're okay with a lie. Lie
right.
if you do whatever you got to do to win.
So the lie is Trump. Okay, yes.
And that's what it comes down to for a lot of people, too, when we talk about the people who just, for whatever reason, their hatred for Trump, their disdain from Trump, they're going to save the world by voting for Kamala Harris. It's the hero complex that people are wrapped up in right now. And what they can't see is the reality that's created by the Biden-Harris administration that people are dealing with every single day.
And they don't care.
And they don't care about it.
They don't care.
They themselves are dealing with it. They still don't care about it. It's not enough for them. Let's hope those numbers are small. Let's hope there are more people that have never voted Republican that are just going to quietly go to the polls and say, you know what, I'm done. Or maybe not so quietly like a Michael Rappaport. Maybe not so quietly like a number of other high-profile former liberals who are saying, I'm done. Very openly saying, I'm done.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. This is just hilarious. I got to play this because you and I, when Walls was picked, remember the one of the first pictures that came out was him holding the gun and the camouflage and the hunting hat and everything else. Mm-hmm. And you had on CNN, I think Dana Bash was one of them, saying that Republicans don't know how to handle a real man who's a Democrat.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks later, Dana Bash was saying, well, he represents a different kind of male, a new kind of progressive male out there. And now it's like, wow, are they throwing him under the bus? This is Dana Bash and Peter Hamby on CNN yesterday about Waltz.
Man, and Donald Trump, he plays golf with Bryson DeChambeau. Yeah. He goes on Theo Vaughn. He talks about Zins. And, you know, Democrats, I'm sorry, like, they haven't had a cool guy candidate in a while. And, like, with all due respect to Tim Walz, like, Tim Walz appeals to a lot of men. He also appeals to that guy, Bruce. Yeah. Jeff's package. He's wearing a Futurist female shirt. Yeah. Like, that guy in Madison, Wisconsin is already going to vote Democrat. Yeah. I'm sorry. How do you reach the young men? Yeah.
See, everything's about identity to them.
Oh,
everything's about identity. Nothing's about the damn issues in the media.
It's not about the qualifications of the candidate or the issues at all.
Right. It's about the symbolism is important to them.
Right.
I mean, they're absolutely obsessed with identity to the point. I mean, the identity of Walz is just amazing. You know, first, they're afraid of a macho man. Oh, so now you're defining a macho man and a real man, somebody who holds a gun. You know, and then a couple of weeks later, it was completely reversed.
Yeah.
Well, he appeals to a different kind. He shows that a man doesn't have to be testosterone laden. Well, you were just saying the opposite 2 weeks ago.
Right.
You're trying to you're practicing identity politics. You don't even know what his identity is. You can't figure it out.
Right.
I mean, it's like I'm watching It's Pat.
Yeah, exactly. All over the place. Oh. You know, they realized they stepped in it. Oh, we can't say macho anymore. Who said that? Our own side. Oh, we'll go the other direction.
They can't handle a Democrat man with testosterone.
Right.
Are you saying that's a rare thing?
Right.
It's like,
well, find us one. Then we'll decide if we can handle it.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Well, it's a Friday morning, so trying to clear off the desk, but want to get to stuff that happened this week. And one of the things that happened this week is the House Homeland Security Committee held a hearing on terrorism and illegal immigration, and we're trying to play a few little bit long-form audio from that hearing because we think it's really, really important. It's one of the top two issues. It's really the second issue of Americans' concerns here for this 2024 election. So I want to play this audio cut because it's from Representative Morgan Luttrell of Texas. Now, Morgan Luttrell, you might have said, I know that name. He is the twin brother of Marcus Luttrell from the book Lone Survivor and the movie Lone Survivor with was Mark Wahlberg, right? Was in Lone Survivor, I believe it was. And if you've ever read the book, I read the book. It was tough for me to get through the introduction because Marcus Luttrell talked about that after he came back, and remember, everybody that he served with was wiped out, and I think it was 19 SEALs were also killed in a helicopter trying to rescue him. And it's a heartbreaking story, but in the introduction, it's where Marcus Luttrell goes to each and every one of those families, basically did a tour to visit every one of those families. And it's tough for me to even talk about it because I was on a plane reading it. I do a lot of my reading, a lot of my recreational reading. I don't get to do a lot of recreational reading, so I do it whenever I'm flying on a plane, and I'm in tears. And I had to put my reading sunglasses on because just trying to get through the introduction of it. But Morgan is Marcus Luttrell's twin brother, a representative out of Texas. He knows about combat. He also He and his brother both were Navy SEALs. So here is part of the back and forth between him and Alex Norasith, I think his name is, Vice President of Economic and Social Policy Studies at the Cato Institute, as they talk about, we talk about the terrorist watch list of terrorists crossing the border that are on the watch list, and what kind of danger it may bring to the American public. And I think Morgan Luttrell really wraps it up when he says, look, all it takes is one terrorist. It doesn't take 50. All it takes is one. Here we go.
The Boston Marathon bombing. The bombing of the Twin Towers in the 1990s, 93, February, if I'm correct. 9/11. I consider those terrorist attacks through terrorist organizations. And I've heard some statistics from my colleagues that that's not considered a foreign-born terrorist attack because they were documented or registered in the United States. Can you clarify that for me?
So in the data that I have and have presented in my testimony, those were all conducted by foreign-born terrorists, so they would count under that umbrella of terrorism committed by foreigners.
That have been committed in the United States?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have a list of 230 foreign-born terrorists who have either committed or attempted to commit and were convicted.
Because I need clarification on that, because the challenging part for myself, I'm just going to speak for Morgan here, is that I can't go home to my folks when we're talking about, so I'm very laser focused on the terrorist watch list and those folks that are coming across that meet that category, okay? Because I can't say they were foreign-born terrorists, but they were legalized in America, so we can't count that.
So they're definitely foreign-born if they were born outside of the United States. Even if somebody is a legal immigrant and a terrorist and becomes an American citizen, I count them as foreign-born, just like the U.S. government does.
Okay, when I speak about the terrorist watch list and those individuals that are listed on it, have you ever been in Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa? Have you ever been to a theater of war?
No.
Have you ever experienced anything catastrophic, and you've ever been engaged in a gunfight? That may be a silly question, but I need to know these answers.
I have had a gun pointed at me, but I have not been involved in a
gunfight. It's an amazing experience, isn't it?
That's a nice euphemism for it. Yeah.
Yes, it is. I'm trying to be genuine in here, and I'm trying to be simple in here. I guess the best way to say that. So, have you ever read the book or seen the documentary Terror of Beslan, the school siege in Russia?
I've not seen the documentary, but I've seen footage of that attack.
Okay, so that's the terrorist organization came in and took over a school. A certain number, and it was a massacre, right? And when I see this list, the terror list, is what I'm talking about here. My concern is it only takes one. It only takes one terrorist to perform an extreme act of violence. Man, me and that man right there, Mr. Crane, have been in multiple gunfights, multiple VBIED explosions, multiple suicide bombs overseas in the theater of war. And a lot of times, it was one person. One. And if we can do anything and everything we can to prevent, capture, kill any terrorist that's coming into this country, that's what needs to happen. I walked shoulder to shoulder with Mr. Goldman in New York City 2 weeks ago on 9/11. 9/11. The museum is beyond humbling. I don't want anything like that to ever happen again in this country. And it seems like and I hate to say this, but we're getting caught in the political jargon right now. That should not happen when we're trying to protect American citizens. Period. So I'm glad you clarified the fact that we have had attacks on our country from foreign-born entities. And moving forward, paying close attention and getting away from the jargon that we don't need makes it easier on us. And the numbers that you rattled off, I understand you're a statistician. They're great. But even if we're talking about 0.07%, that's still one person. That clear?
Yes, sir, it is. I'm not saying do nothing. All I'm saying is don't do everything. We have to consider, you have lots of different security threats. You have to allocate scarce resources to save the greatest number of lives.
If we don't do everything, that one thing we don't do is going to get us killed.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it is impossible to do everything. Do you want to spend 100% of U.S. GDP on counterterrorism?
Okay. I don't know if you know my background or not, or that man sitting over there, but our job was to do everything, period. And that's why we were 99.9% successful. Thank you for your time, sir.
Wow.
You know,
and if you know Marcus, or his brother Marcus Luttrell, lone survivor, that's his brother Morgan, also a Navy SEAL and saw action. I would say that when you look, for example, at the terrorist watch list and what's going on at the border, that the focus should be, of course, you can't spend. I don't think anybody, or even Morgan Luttrell, is saying you spend all of your GDP on counterterrorism.
Right.
So to me, even though the gentleman's from the Cato Institute, which is normally, libertarian, conservative, whatever, it doesn't mean, when we see the number of people that cross, on the terrorist watch list, as we, Mr. Heike talked about earlier today also, that have crossed the border, and the government's hiding it from the American people and does not want the American people to know that more people on the terrorist watch list are crossing the border. Forget about doing everything. Just damn it, do something.
Well, that's it. Well, and it's beyond, we've gone beyond even doing nothing. We're making it actually happen.
Yes, we're enabling it.
It's not like there was some kind of event that allowed this to happen. These were choices. People made this happen. This administration made choices to make this happen and create a situation where people were coming here in massive amounts, and the enemy is clearly taking advantage of that. We know that. We know they're on American soil right now. They're here. And, this attitude of, I'm not saying you just don't do everything. Well, actually, do everything within our power every single day. That's what we've trained border agents to do. It's also what we count on, in fact, rely on for the federal government. This falls under this is national security. It's the number one role of the federal government. It's sorry, but trying to say we should spend our entire, you can't spend, what are you going to spend the entire GDP? It's not necessary to do that, to do a lot more than what you're doing now, and send a message to our enemy that we're not open for business and we're going to seek you out wherever you are.
So I don't think it's, what you're saying is do what you can do the reasonable things at the minimum.
Right.
And the reasonable things would be close the border, vet people coming in to the United States, make sure that they're vetted when they come in. If people overstay their visas, then you go after them.
Yep. And get a clean spending bill on the border, by the way, a clean spending bill on the border that doesn't include creating a permanent loophole, a permanent hole in the border that is going to be open until the end of time. Through an act of Congress, we would create that permanent hole. It wouldn't be just administrative. These are things that have to be done in order to give the border agents everything they need. The technology, the NSA can follow how many Americans and their data on phones, and they can do all of these things. The government has the ability to do all of these things. They just don't have the will. We can apply technology and this is the thing. I would take the lead from those who are in charge of the boots on the ground. We heard from Heike earlier and his testimony yesterday. Those that are in charge of the boots on the ground. This is what I've always said, because I've never been a border agent. I know many of them, but I've said it. I said it back in 2016 when Trump first talked about a wall and making Mexico pay for it. I said, okay, you're going to have problems with a wall. Here are the problems with a wall, but it's really not up to me. What does the Border Patrol tell you they want? If they say, okay, we need a wall, then build a wall. If they need more drones, if they need more manpower, whatever it is they need, then allow them to have that. We can allocate more resources without it being to the extent of the entire GDP. We certainly need to give them more and need to, in fact, capitalize on the greater technology that's available to us today. We can sit there and track when the Amazon driver is going to be at our door. I got food delivered the other day through the DoorDash app. When I zoomed in, of course, it shows where you are on your phone. They need to know where you are, because they're delivering to your house and you set that up. But you might be somewhere else, and I've had that service delivered when I'm on the road. If I'm staying at a hotel or something like that, I've used it. It's like, okay, then here's where you need to have it delivered. But I zoomed it. It actually showed the little blue dot of where I am in the back room of my house where I was. Point being, we've got technology to get me a hot dog delivered. Let's enforce the border.
Yeah, I've done that where I'll zoom in on my house, and I can see the blue dot, and I'll have my phone in my hand, and I'll walk around the house, and you can see the blue dot moving. So
That's crazy.
So it's within.
I mean, I know how it works,
right? It's probably within 5 to 10 feet.
They say actually closer now.
Is it closer now? Okay, I haven't done it in a while. But,
mine.
But you could see me. You could see me at one side of the house, and then you could see the blue dot slowly move around. I went, "Oh my god!"
Mine was spot on in the very corner of the room where I was sitting. It was spot on. It was within inches, and I thought to myself,
amazing.
"Wow!" But the point being, that technology, the amazing technology we have today, let's capitalize on that. Let's make that part of, and again. Let's take the lead of what the Border Patrol leadership tells us, those leading those agents, those boots on the ground, what they need to close those borders.
Well, I'll go to the basic step that they need to do next. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. We had played that audio cut from the House hearing yesterday on immigration, illegal immigration, and terrorism. And my point would be, well, we need to do everything we can, and the Cato Institute guy telling him, well, you can't spend all of your GDP. What are you talking about? I mean, why that's not even part of the conversation.
Right.
We've got a government. You had Mr. Heitke, who just testified yesterday and talked about the fact that the number of people that they believe had terrorist ties went up 10 times just in the San Diego border sector alone while he was there. And he was told this needs to be kept quiet from everybody, including Congress. We can't tell anybody. They keep the border open. Forget about doing everything to stop it. Don't help it.
Well, no, that's the thing, is that they're actually assisting the enemy. Think about what the Biden administration has done for Iran and its proxies, and now is doing nothing, knowing full well, in fact, telling these border sector chiefs to keep it from the American public about how many terrorists are coming across the border. Makes you wonder what the motive for Joe Biden is.
Yeah, you have to ask that question.
Yep.
That question, and that's not a radical question or an unfair question.
I'm looking
at
all
all
the facts.
for Harris. And my thing is, and I'm sure everybody else will recognize this and probably have thought the same thought while we're in this discussion, that here the Biden-Harris administration is just knowing that the whole world knows you can get across if you wish to, and they're not really going to vet you. You're basically saying, terrorists, come in, And then when they come in, and you know they're coming in, and the amount drastically increases in order to keep your open borders, you tell the Border Patrol, don't you dare tell anybody that the number of people on the terrorist watch list that are coming into the country have gone up. And then on top of it, the federal government says, well, let's put Tulsi Gabbard on the terrorist watch list. I mean,
she's an officer in the U.S. military.
Oh, she's a former congresswoman.
Yes. And
does that mean Swalwell is on it?
Because no. Just dating a spy is not. That's not a problem.
Dating a Chinese spy is not a problem.
That's not a problem. As long as her balloon over Montana just stays, in the air.
But then the same thing about Tulsi Gabbard. She's the one that says it, and it's like, okay, why is she on it?
Right.
We can't tell you.
Right.
Shut up.
Right.
You're fired.
No,
Get
everybody
out.
has this, and we've talked about it. Whether it's Director Ray, Mayorkas, all of them. Oh, I can't talk about that, right? You just won't talk about it. You won't talk about it because you won't tell the American people the truth. Seriously, this is insane that we allow this.
It is.
We are choosing to punish ourselves if we elect people who continue to do this. This is aside from the massive inflation that we've been through in recent years and the cost of everything and the fact that people can't afford anything and are having to make choices right now in their lives as to whether they get back to school stuff for their kids or pay the rent.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Yeah, so when it comes to the security of our nation, the gentleman that we played last hour that was being questioned by Morgan Luttrell, Representative Luttrell of Texas, who's a former Navy SEAL, twin brother of Marcus Luttrell from Lone Survivor, as we all know that story, was saying, we've got to do more. And the answer came back from the Cato Institute representative, well, you can't do everything. And Luttrell made the comment that, well, if you don't, you're going to get hit by it.
Right.
And what we just said was, well, wait a minute. Forget about doing everything. Don't enable the terrorist. Don't communicate to the terrorists that, hey, you can come into the United States because you're not really going to be vetted.
Right.
And Luttrell's point was, I've seen terrorists in action. You only need one. You only need one. We've seen as many as just one commit incredible damage with a suicide bomber or whatever. And his thing was, where I come from in the military, you got to do everything. And my point would be, well, they're not just not doing everything. Forget about doing everything or doing half or doing 10% of it. They're helping the terrorists. And then on the same day that Luttrell was saying it, you had Mr. Heike, the former sector chief of San Diego, say that, no, you had basically the number of suspected, people with ties to terrorism coming into the San Diego sector go up by 10 times.
Yeah.
And when it happened, they got the order. Don't you dare. Nobody is to tell anybody that this is happening.
Right.
The American public is not to know, and Congress is not to know that this is happening. So forget about the standard of should we do half of everything or everything. Don't help the damn terrorists. Maybe that might be a starting point.
Yeah, that's, because this isn't about a failure. This is about a deliberate set of actions.
Yeah. And then you say, well, wait a minute. We can't do everything. Have you tried flying over the last 23 years?
Right.
I just had to get my enhanced license renewed. We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have a passport. I had to have my old license. I wasn't sure if I was going to need, I brought my water bill. I brought my birth certificate. I just applied. I applied, 5 weeks. It's 5 weeks ago now for my TSA pre-check. I still have not yet been approved. They said, well, okay, they've originally told me 3 days to 3 weeks. It's been 5 weeks. They said, well, it could be as, far as 60 days. Tulsi Gabbard is on the terrorist watch list, and they won't tell us why. We go back to remember when this all first started with the TSA, why are you thoroughly examining, why are you having random searches and searching grandma, but the Saudi Arabian soccer team just goes right through?
Mm-hmm.
Forget about just doing everything. Do something. But I know with me, and I'm using me as an example, not as a exclusive victim or anything. It's just the fact of what we've all had to go through for our licenses, for if you want TSA, pre-check, if you want a passport, everything that we do in life, we need to identify we're thoroughly vetted. I'm thoroughly vetted. Eric, you're thoroughly vetted.
Well,
most of the American public, if they want to do anything, is completely, thoroughly vetted. And it's like, oh, no, just let the terrorists, they're crossing. Shh, don't tell anybody. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And the problem is half of America knows it and half of America doesn't want to hear it. That's where we are right now.
It really is. And the head in the sand approach is obviously not going to work. What we're seeing with those coming across the border that have now, taken over large blue cities and everything else, you see the pushback there because people are dealing with it on an infrastructure level. Well, you have to apply the thought, you have to apply the idea, in fact, the reality that terrorists are on American soil as a result of the same behavior at the border, the same policy, deliberate set of actions by this administration. They are here. It's only a matter of time. And the problem is that we have a growing sentiment that is pro-Hamas, that is proudly anti-Semite here on American soil that are American citizens.
Well, I think the question has to be asked. We talk about, for example, the Muslim community, for example, in Dearborn.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not allowed to address the question, otherwise you're accused of Islamophobia or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if you have a group of people who are saying, we are not going to vote for Kamala Harris unless she comes out fully pro-Hamas, you got a problem with a ton of vetting that you've done in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a massive issue for a country that has way too many citizens with their head in the sand, and they don't want to hear it.
And some don't have their head in the sand. They're outright anti-United States and pro-terrorist organizations that wish the demise of the United States.
Right. So for those who don't care about it, you enable those that actually want damage done to the U.S.
Right. And I'm not indicting all Muslims. I'm only indicting the Muslims that are saying you need to come out completely against Israel. Well, after what happened on October 7th, there is no gray area anymore.
No.
You're either pro-American, pro-freedom, Western world, or you're a terrorist supporter. End of story.
Right. And the terrorists want us gone, too, not just Israel.
And I don't care whether you're Muslim, whether you're not Muslim, because a lot of people that aren't Muslim that are pro-terrorist in this country. I don't care what your religion is. I care what your ideology of the United States versus terrorism is. That's what I care about.
Right.
Because I know Muslims that are completely against Hamas. We know that.
But the louder noise right now is the anti-Semitism and the activists out there that are all over college campuses targeting Jewish students. They're on the streets promoting their pro-Hamas position.
Yeah, I'm not making this up.
No, these are all facts.
It exists. We know. It's been talked about, the demographic. Unless she comes out as more, and they call it pro-Palestinian, but it's not pro-Palestinian. It's pro-Hamas.
Right. And they have demonstrated that very clearly, because those activists.
Because if you're pro-Palestinian, you want to get rid of Hamas. If you're truly pro-innocent Palestinians, you want Hamas gone.
Right.
And you said it the day after, or the day that it happened, whenever we got on the air, you said there is no gray area here.
There is no
and there is no gray area.
There is no. There is, this. That's the whole thing. With words like two-state solution, that neither of the two states would be two states are asking for. You're trying to pretend like there's gray area, and there isn't. There's on one side, there's the radicals, and then on the other, everybody else. So you are pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah, or you're not. And you're anti-Hamas, anti-Hezbollah, and you want them gone and eliminated, which is the way it should be. It's not just Israel that they target, that they want gone from the map. The U.S.
They want the United States gone.
Which is why it's a great concern that many terrorists are coming across the border that was deliberately opened by this administration.
Yep.
Including the border czar, and yes, she is, Kamala Harris.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. So, yeah, when you look at it, it's like, forget about the Cato Institute guy. And I know it's like, well, no, we need to have, because, a lot of people that are libertarians say open borders, everybody should be able to come across.
Yeah, no.
It's like, shut up.
No. This is national security. You're living in a delusional state. You're living in a delusional state of mind if you promote that there shouldn't be any borders at all.
Yeah. Well, you're a nationalist. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I believe in a secure
you can
nation.
Call me names all you want.
Throw the name. We're going to name call. You're a nationalist phobia, whatever. Mm-hmm. I can't come up with a word for you, but I'm trying to come up with one.
Yeah. All right. Get back to the name calling all you want, children. Adults need to be worried about national security. It's the number one role of the federal government, according to the Constitution. We're a nation, we're a sovereign nation with a very solid Constitution that the left is trying to dismantle every single day. All of it. If we can get away with this part of breaking the Constitution, eventually we can change everything and convince the courts that none of it applies.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, some Democrats slightly peeved at some of the major unions in the United States not endorsing Harris.
Oh, wow.
And some of the union heads speak about it.
When's the last time this happened? I mean, just with the Teamsters alone, when's the last time
I think
that they didn't...
I think it was. I saw it was 96, and I was trying to figure out why
that
they
would have been Bill Clinton's reelection.
Why wouldn't they support Bill Clinton in the second one? I can't remember why. I mean, and I covered the politics. I covered the politics very closely then because that's when Dole and Jack Kemp ran, and Kemp, played for the Bills and was a congressman from Buffalo. So I paid a lot of attention, and I just don't remember that being a huge story at that time. I just don't. It might have been. I just don't remember it. I'm getting old.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on then that applied to trucking for the Teamsters. I'd have to go back and look at a calendar and refresh my brain. Trying to think because it was wow, crazy. A few months after that election, I started this job. Wow. Yeah, I know, right? That's insane. Maybe the class of 94 stuff that, I signed it and I wish I hadn't, but Bill, if you look at the class of 94 stuff, did the Teamsters blame Bill Clinton for that or something? I don't know.
I just don't remember specifically what that issue would be.
Bob Dole wasn't the strongest candidate against a Bill Clinton at the time. But, so I know why, and it's the Teamsters. They weren't going to endorse Bob Dole, but why not Bill Clinton? And I don't know. I can't remember. I have to go back and look. But it is rare that you see so many union members go, no, we want the Republican.
And think about it. If Bob Dole, rest his soul, was alive today, they'd say, well, the youth movement is now.
Well, yeah.
Okay, I'm going back to when Biden was running still.
Right,
but,
yeah.
Okay, we've got the youth movement. Here's Bob Dole.
Yeah. Wow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to let the audience know I was born in a middle-class family.
I was, same with me. 5 kids, 1 earner. And so Eric and I do not need to explain to you any of our positions. From now on, any of you have any questions for us, or basically the narrative you're going to hear on the show every day is we're just going to be repeating over and over again, since where we stand on the issues does not matter, that we were born into middle-class families.
And also in a community that had great pride, took great pride in their weed. Different type of grass.
No, that's true, though, with me.
What? Your weed?
No.
What?
I love you, Mom. I have to tell this. I mean, it's the edging story. I've told it before. You know, we didn't have the electric or gas edgers that you have. You know, it was the one you had to push. And we had
when you were a kid, they didn't have electricity yet. So, yeah.
But it was like the edger that you had to push. It was hard. It was hard to edge your lawn.
The hand one,
yes.
Kind of rolled.
Yes.
In a clunky fashion.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one at all. That
and so over and over you'd have to do it, and
I
it was
hated that.
You know, and I don't know how old I was, and then Mom would come out and inspect it, and I did not like my mom at that time,
especially Inspector Mom,
because it became my brother and I knew because we're the ones that cut the lawn. We knew there could not be one blade of grass. You needed that separation between the sidewalk or the driveway and the grass. There needed to be a little valley in there with not one blade of grass that went over that valley. Between the end of the grass line and the sidewalk or the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, Mom! Nobody's going to... Didn't matter.
We actually have a city ordinance where I live. You can't have grass growing onto your sidewalk. I don't know to what extent they've enforced it.
Well, I bet you our homeowners association.
Yeah.
I'm drinking now. It's Friday. My homeowners association.
Yeah, I bet you those communists that run that group thing that I pay every month. I bet they have something to say about it.
Forget about the weed. I'm just drinking alcohol.
Yeah. Why not?
And so. You know what I take pride in now? As an adult? Edging.
Oh, yeah.
And when I'm done, it's like the corner of the sidewalk and the driveway. I look at it. Oh, it's almost perfect. It's
well,
it comes from my mom.
And it also has to be the same gap along the way.
Yes.
Because it drives me crazy. Now, I will also say I do have a little bit of OCD. So there's that. But it comes from, and I remember we lived in San Antonio, for those listening on KTSA, over in the Rainbow Hills area when I was a kid. It was Mom and Dad's first house on Adams Hill Drive there in San Antonio. And it had this huge backyard. Perfect for jumping your Evel Knievel action figure on his motorcycle after you set it on fire. Or tried to. And also BB gun wars, lawn darts, but then learning to mow. I remember when I went out there. Okay, so do you remember when a mower, if it was about to die, you would tip it back to get the engine back revving? Do you remember that? Yes. Okay, that scared the day. My dad saw that through the window. And I was doing that, and it scared my dad because an exposed lawn. I'm also not drinking, and as far as you know, as far as management knows, the exposed lawnmower blade would be very dangerous. I mean, I was behind the lawnmower over at the on the handle side, but Dad freaked out because he saw me tipping it back, and he didn't know how far back it was going to go. And it was one of my first couple of times mowing the lawn. Then he runs out there and he goes, no, you can't do that. Don't do that. And then he got my brother to come out there and finish. Or he called my brother out there. And then we got back up onto the porch and I was like, I didn't say anything to him. I got my head, hung low and I'm just trying to figure out, what I did wrong and the whole thing. And then he goes, wait a minute. What were you trying to do? And I said, I was trying to get it to keep from dying. He goes, oh. He goes, I thought for some reason you were trying to turn it over or trying to get it to go over a rock or something like. He goes, I'm really sorry about it. And he apologized. I remember that moment because, number one, it was part of my whole, the beginning of my lawn mowing career. And number two, it was just a memorable moment with my dad.
Well, see, now, did you have the regular, the single blade, or did you have the rotary ones with the blades? See, we had, my father, I can still remember. My father was as proud when he got his Cooper Clipper lawnmower.
The push mower, not powered, human powered?
No, it was human powered, but it had the blades going. It didn't have the one blade that's basically like a mulcher.
Right.
It had the rotary the blades. All the blades were exposed.
Right. No, we didn't have that.
Yeah. So my father got the Cooper Clipper.
Yeah.
And he was as proud. I'm not kidding. He was as proud as when Al Bundy got his Ferguson toilet.
Oh, just go ask my son. Hey, tell me about your dad and his relationship with his lawnmowers. I mean, seriously.
And the thing I realized is I don't care how hard you try, how hard you attempt to rebel from your parents, you actually end up almost exactly like them.
Oh, it's scary. It is scary how close I am. And I look exactly like my dad. And so it's, it's even scarier. Yeah. And, I definitely, on the lawn thing, I'm full on.
I love it, though. But, we grew up in middle. So that's going to be basically.
I grew up in a middle class.
The rest of our shows until, I don't know, will I retire first? Have we decided that yet?
No, you can't. We're not retiring. Stop saying the word. It's not going to happen. We were just talking during the break about how you and I wouldn't like long vacations.
I know.
I mean, I don't know. I like traveling a little bit, going somewhere, having a little bit of fun. 3, 4, 5 days. We made the mistake. My wife and I made the mistake of going to Vegas. This is years ago. Going to Vegas and staying there 6 days and 5 nights. That was an eternity.
Yeah, because I was talking about retirement with you. I mean, just hypothetically, not that I'm retiring or have any plans to retire at all, because I don't have any plans to retire. But I was just talking about how I said, 2, maybe 3 days is the most.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody that sits there and says, I want to spend a week on the beach. I just don't. I would get too bored. And it's, vacation. When I went on vacation we went on vacation a couple of weeks ago by Thursday, and I had visited my dad. I got back like Monday. So 2 days. By the time I got to Thursday, I was like, I got to get back to work.
Yeah.
And so, and I love that. Because I know most people don't have that. Most people don't have a job that they love so much where they actually look forward to getting back to it. Because I remember I worked so many jobs. I worked jobs in radio where when vacation came, I went, oh, thank God, vacation's here. And then the day before, you're like, God, I got to go back tomorrow. Oh, I got to go back tomorrow. Oh.
Right.
And since I've been working here with you, and especially since we've been with Westwood One, it's people say, would you rather be at work or on vacation? It's like both.
Well, the problem is that we now, with everything going on, it is such a massive, busy news cycle, and not just because it's an election year, but that's part of it too. It's that, because I said something earlier in the show, and it probably didn't make sense to a lot of people. I said, the problem is we got to get everything in. It's the Friday show because the weekend is a longer break, and everybody's going, okay, why is he saying the Captain Obvious here? For us, we now look at it as leaving here at 5 a.m. when we leave at the end of our show and when we go home, it's just a break. We come back. It just seems like the days continue, which we see as a good thing. I actually greatly enjoy it and the process. And the weekend kind of gets in the way of what we do here. And no, we're not going to start working weekends. That's not going to happen.
No, it's that everything piles up.
It's just that there's such a, and you can't, and then by the time you get back Sunday night, the news that broke Friday morning is like, seems weeks old. Well, vacation is even worse. It's like, ugh.
And you know something, since you brought that up, just how so many things are, we had talked earlier about I had not seen major coverage of exactly precisely the whole pager thing with Hezbollah.
Right.
And thanks to one of our listeners who sent me the New York Times story from the other day, that according to sources, U.S. military sources, Israel carried out the operation by hiding explosive material within a new batch of Taiwan-made pagers imported into Lebanon, according to American and other officials briefed with the operation. Now, again, these are American officials. Now, the White House, State Department said they had no idea that any of this went on.
Right.
The pagers, which Hezbollah had ordered from Gold Apollo in Taiwan, had been tampered with before they reached Lebanon. According to some of the officials, most were the company's AR-924 model. Although 3 other Gold Apollo models were also included in the shipment, the explosive material as little as 1 to 2 ounces was implanted next to the battery in each pager. 2 of the officials said a switch was also embedded that could be triggered remotely to detonate the explosives. At 3:30 p.m. in Lebanon, the pagers received a message that appeared as though it was coming from Hezbollah's leadership, 2 officials said. Instead, the message activated the explosives. Lebanon's health minister told state media that at least 11 people were killed and more than 2,700 injured. The devices were programmed to beep for several seconds before exploding. The American and other officials spoke on condition of anonymity, given the sensitive nature of the operation. So there you go. And as I've said before, the UN came out against it, and AOC was talking about it, and others, criticizing it, saying you should not be using, civilian objects.
Right.
It's like it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Right. Yeah. They don't apply that. I don't know what set of rules they're trying to make up here, but certainly the left doesn't apply those rules to Hezbollah or Hamas, do they?
No.
Is there a rule book of what they should be doing and should not be doing? I haven't heard that from the far left. It's insane. You're going to use every tactic you can to go after your enemy, but especially in diminishing their ability, your enemy's ability to communicate. It actually was a genius idea. It works on so many levels. You diminish that. You infiltrate the infrastructure, which sends a message to them all. You carry that out and then diminish their ability to communicate, likely ahead of some kind of movement against Hezbollah, which is exactly what it appears to be. That's you want them crippled when you go after them. That's clear.
The United Nations Secretary General on Wednesday said, I think it's very important that there is an effective control of civilian objects, not to weaponize civilian objects like airplanes.
Like Facebook, like Twitter?
Right. That should be the rule. Ken Roth, the longtime former head of Human Rights Watch, who turned his field into a blame Israel first course, seconded the point about objects associated with normal civilian daily use. Wow. Yeah. Do these people think the Lebanese communities communicate via pager and walkie-talkies?
Right. Right.
Israel didn't tamper with civilian objects like smartphones. This is from the Wall Street Journal, or any device you might pick up at a Lebanese Radio Shack. It sabotaged Hezbollah's secure military communications. Wow.
Yeah.
Joseph Borrell, the European Union's top diplomat, also said, I firmly condemn today's new attack via the explosion of high number of electronic devices across Lebanon. Once again, the indiscriminate method used is unacceptable. Even if the attack seemed to have been targeted, the civilian harm was indiscriminate. Targeted is the opposite of indiscriminate. Say right here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, just amazing. Israel haters set an impossible standard in Gaza, where Hamas fights from schools and hospitals. But even when Israel meets the standard, as now in Lebanon, AOC says the attack clearly violates international humanitarian law. You and I wondered what the criticism would be, and there it is.
Oh, well, there it is.
You don't use
Look,
civilian objects.
Yeah, Israel, how dare you defend yourself?
Yeah. But I will admit,
that's
most of the Democrats have not come out against it.
No, you've only heard a couple of voices. Right. But it's once again showing who they are.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll hear from some of the unions because Democrats furious that Harris is not getting the union endorsements that she thought they were going to get. What's the other thing I wanted to bring up? Oh, yeah. Another hearing yesterday on Biden's policies. And again, you had one of the FCC commissioners testify on all the billions and billions of dollars spent to expand internet.
Yeah.
Broadband.
Yep.
And not one person has been hooked up in years. Not one. Yeah. Billions of dollars.
Yeah.
We'll hear from him also because it's just like, this is why, and we want, I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, the government should be more in control of how to run business?
Right.
Really?
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. We have one of our great listeners wonder, why isn't it treason to, and we had talked about earlier the hearing that was held in the House yesterday about terrorism and the border. Where
right.
You had the former chief of the San Diego sector say, no, the number went from like 10 to 100, and it kept increasing every year of the Biden administration, the number of people that had terrorist ties that they were catching, and which meant, as he believed, many more were getting across the border who you didn't catch.
Right.
And when they caught them and the number went up, the Biden administration said, don't tell anybody this is what's going on. So they could sit there and say, no, terrorism isn't a problem at the border or terrorist crossing.
Right.
Because they told them to shut up. One of our great listeners said, why isn't that treason? Well, you might be closer to treason. To get closer to the legal definition of treason, for example, if you had two ISIS members that crossed the border and the president said, two specific members, and the president said, let them across, knowing they were going to commit a terrorist act, and that terrorist act happened, that would be closer to treason. Is it impeachable what he is doing on the border and then lying about it? I believe it is. Republicans believe it is.
Yep.
But whether you believe it's impeachable or treason, the Democrats or the Department of Justice are not going to do anything about it.
No,
they don't.
Who's going to go after him?
Right. But just wanted to explain basically what treason, what would be closer to treason.
Right. Yeah.
And it wouldn't matter whether it actually fit the legal definition of treason. Democrats don't care. No. They don't care what's going on at the border. No. The Democrat voters, except if you're being affected by it in the cities, they don't care.
Right.
Care less about the border. Care less about illegal immigration. Care less about the hardship that it's creating for so many towns and cities in this nation. They don't care.
Well, even some of the border state and border district Democrats have been quiet lately. You haven't heard from many of them. I think there's a couple of things going on. Obviously, during election time, you're told if you're a border state Democrat, pipe down. The party doesn't want you complaining about anything. And there were only a few to begin with, but no, you can't complain about that. And then also, I think right now, there's a lot that's already, again, I believe, priced in, factored in the minds of the American voter, which means the constituents, even in those districts, for them, it's, all right, now it's time to decide what I'm going to do about this as a voter, what I'm going to do. You saw certain border counties, I think Uvalde County in 2020 went to Trump, the first time it went red in a long time in Texas. I don't know what it looks like. We don't make predictions. I don't even see, you're not going to see breakdowns by pollsters ahead of an election that will get down to specific counties like that. But we will definitely, I believe, see a response by voters on the border, on inflation and everything else. Is it enough to give Trump the win? Do they have the faith in Trump on this, on the border? How do you not give it to the guy who was screaming for a wall when nobody else was screaming for a wall?
I have to tell you this. We played the audio cut yesterday where which was actually became an internet ad for Trump. And it was just, it was where she's saying, do you know what it would be like if you had to deport all these people? Do you know what it would be like?
Yeah,
and Trump,
imagine that.
Imagine that. And Trump basically said, the Trump campaigns made it an ad and said, here's our latest ad. And after she said all this stuff, criticizing Republicans, it goes, this message approved by Donald Trump.
Exactly.
I mean, it was hilarious.
Right. Yeah.
Let me just see. Do I have it here somewhere?
It was a great ad, but something we've been saying, and we're very happy it's happening. That the Republican Party in general, Republicans need to be doing, play them in their own words and tag it at the, put your tag on it for the legal tag on the end, and then that's your ad. You don't have to do anything else. You can just point to the other side, show the other side. That's it.
Yeah, you really don't have to do much more.
There really isn't much more to do right now. A debate. The debate is between reality and what Kamala Harris is claiming.
I think I found the ad. I think this is it. Let me try. Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
All right.
Ready?
Here we go.
All right.
Now they have pledged to carry out the largest deportation, a mass deportation in American history. Imagine what that would look like and what that would be.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
I have never seen a presidential election where you have, one party, which would be the Republicans, almost all the ads, all the ads I see, almost all of them are Harris in her own words.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you do something like that, when you take that ad right there, where she's taking that as a talking point for victory, and how many times has the campaign done it this week?
Yeah.
Like 3 times?
Right.
3 or 4 times?
Right. The Philadelphia interview they posted.
Yeah. Philadelphia
Here's our
interview.
new ad. I mean, and then that cut that you just heard, a number of things on their social media pages that the Trump campaign has posted are of the opposition. I mean, the content of their message is populated more by Kamala Harris and Tim Walz than it is Donald Trump.
My favorite of the morning, though, I have to say, is the Dana Bash and the discussion that they had as Pete Habbey, whatever, on the masculinity of Walz. I mean, it's so they are so caught up in the masculinity and the evolution of it in just really a month.
Yeah,
of being, well, Republicans are afraid of a masculine Democrat. That's, a testosterone-laden Democrat with a gun in his hand and, camouflage, hunting, and everything else. They don't know how to handle it. And just a couple of weeks later, it's like, well, he's not the typical testosterone male out there. He's the new kind of male out there. And then yesterday they were just blasting him, saying he just doesn't have what Trump has. Trump goes everywhere. Trump goes golfing, with different golf pros and celebrities. He goes on Theo Vaughn's, podcast. He mentioned he can go anywhere and he's a man's man, and Walz just doesn't have that, And it's like, and they were referring to one guy that apparently that was in one of their clips that said the future is women or something. I love it. The future is women or something. And he goes, well, that guy right there, he's going to vote for Harris anyway.
Right.
He was never a Trump voter. So how can Walz help her get men over, which was the original the original idea of putting him in.
Right.
And they're like, he really can't. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, the evolution of it, but their obsession with identity politics. We don't talk like that. We may bring it up, but we're only bringing it up because they bring it up. I could care less.
Yeah. Nope. It's the qualifications.
Right. I don't care whether, if Walz was a conservative, I might say, hey, quit with the Richard Simmons stuff. I really like what you're saying, but, quit dancing up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, you look weird, man.
It's just don't
you
act
look weird.
Don't act weird. Oh, what do you think of? Man, we never discussed this. The clips of his wife.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Defending him at his speech. She almost, and then the close-ups of her was just, it just was bad. It was really bad. It was really bad.
It is.
They don't.
It's very. The look in her eyes is so intense.
Yes.
It's scary.
Well, you notice what accusation they were throwing at Trump is gone now? Weird.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you notice they don't say weird.
J.D. Vance.
They don't say J.D. Vance. And I'm sorry, I should have added J.D. Vance into there because that's when they started saying it.
Right.
It was when J.D. Vance is weird. It's
Yeah.
like, you don't hear that anymore. They dropped it.
Well, it's because aesthetics is important. And when she was doing that speech, she looked beyond angry. don't say passionate. She looks angry, like far beyond angry.
Well, googly-eyed angry.
Yeah.
Googly-eyed livid.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
It made the whole I Am Spartacus by Booker look like nothing. You know?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, remember that? Now his
yeah,
eyes got all
Spartacus.
intense. It's like, okay, dude, calm down. Well, in that moment with Tim Walz's wife, wow. Yeah.
What was the Harris thing that she did? I think we were texting each other, and you said that's worse than Howard Dean.
Oh, the screeching.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. When she said, "Oh, that's
And
right."
he doesn't have a plan.
Oh, yeah, that was it. Yes,
And it was like, and I texted back to you, man, Howard Dean's got to be looking at this going, are you kidding
That was
me
it, yeah.
right now? Because Howard Dean, you know, he goes, yeah! And then all of a sudden the next morning he's out of the race. And she's the nominee.
and I was right there.
Yeah.
I wasn't there in the hall where he said it,
Mm-hmm.
but I was in the hotel
Mm-hmm.
that all of the Democrats were at.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. They were in this huge bar in a hotel. I mean, huge bar.
Yeah.
When that happened,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember watching, I get, yeah, or whatever. I can't do it. Yeah, you do it better than I do.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really a lot of reaction
Yeah.
at that point. And I'm talking about you're talking about me sitting in as liberal of a crowd.
Right.
But nobody knew I was a talk show host. We were working for ABC at the time.
Right.
I just had my ABC shirt, my ABC microphone, so they just assumed if I was doing an interview that I was,
And by the way,
liberal.
it wasn't the content of what he was saying. We're going to basically go all the way. We're going to take this all the way to the White House.
It wasn't.
It was
Right.
when you can't hear yourself, voice modulation, and you're trying to scream, and you lose voice modulation. It's that you gotta try and control that on stage. He didn't control it then. It didn't seem like such a big deal when it happened, but all of a sudden it's over for him.
Right, because that was the last night we were there.
Yeah.
So I got up early in the morning, and I had to do a bunch of hits with different radio stations.
Mm-hmm.
Get up in my hotel room and do it. And they're all like, so what was the reaction when Howard Dean did that? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. What do you mean?
I didn't even
Right.
It didn't come across even in that room, and all. But I'll never forget, because that was really. I realized in that day that one moment of something that you would not think would affect any type of an election can absolutely destroy you.
Yeah.
And I could be there and witness it with people that a lot of them liked him that didn't even notice it when he said it, and
Right.
the morning after, he's done.
Right. The difference is he doesn't always talk like that. She talks like that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Coming up following the top of the hour, we'll get to a bunch of audio cuts that we want to get to from union leaders, from the FCC commissioner who said all this money for 3 years, 3.5 years, sitting there to spend on broadband. Not one person has been hooked up. Nothing has started on broadband at all. This is why when Eric and I, even when Republicans start talking about, well, we may know how to regulate the economy better if we do it our way, we say, no.
Right.
No.
Right.
Let the private sector handle it. We'll get to that coming up. But Democrats do it most of the time, as
Right,
we know.
yeah.
They're the ones that really want government to be much more in your business. This is a perfect example of why they shouldn't be.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.